Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys. It's an honor to be here as always. My name is Alexandra, and most people know me as a very upbeat, positive, chase your dreams kind of person, right? You know, the one who always has the long to-do list that scares life coach and the vision board that is electric. But let me tell you, 6 months ago, that was not the person. I was not that person. I was hopeless. I was curled up in the fetal position on my living room floor, crying so hard, my dog started bringing me tissues. And I don't have a dog, so that's pretty bad. I'm kidding. I wasn't exactly the highlight reel you find on Instagram. Life had completely knocked me off course, and in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes hitting rock bottom isn't the end. It's the solid ground you need to climb back up. So let me backtrack. It all started, and I'll be ridiculously vulnerable here. I was having about 50 hot flashes a day, which that means about one every 20 minutes. And I couldn't get anything done because I was either stripping my clothes off like some teenage girl at spring break, or I was fanning myself like a Southern belle in a heat wave, and it was just horrible, people. It was embarrassing, and it made me feel completely out of control. After 8 months of this nonsense, coupled with erratic sleep, I finally called my doctor. I told her about the solution some of my friends tried that was working wonders for them, and her response was, "Oh no, there's just no science behind that." And I just kept suggesting I need an alternate, what can we do? And her brilliant idea was to start me on the highest dosage of something that was synthetic. Now every alarm bell was going off in my body. It was screaming, "No, abort, this is not a good idea." I kept muscle testing, like my life depended on it. Yeah, I'm that girl that muscle tests everything. But my body kept saying, "Please go natural." Meanwhile, she was offering me something synthetic that every cell in my body kept saying no. And it was like rejecting a toddler rejecting broccoli. You just knew you didn't want it. So there I was at a crossroads. My symptoms, my doctor, and my intuition all duking it out like some reality TV show. And it was a drama, people. It was a real drama. So like any good investigator, I started checking in with older family members and friends. Everyone was like, "Oh, girl, your doctor, she knows what she's doing. She's spot on. Like, you should totally go with that. You've got nothing to lose. Just try it." I'm like, just try it? They swore up and down that this approach had worked wonders for them, so I had to get on the train. So against every fiber of my being, and me screaming, "No, don't do it," I finally said, "All right, I got this. Let's do this." So my doctor assured me, promised me by the 3-week mark, I'd start to feel some kind of relief. And I thought, okay, 3 weeks? Anyone can do 3 weeks. I got this. I'm the girl that always got this. So instead of getting relief 3 weeks later, my life decided to audition for a disaster movie. And it was ugly, people. It was so ugly. I was a walking Hallmark commercial, tears flowing out of nowhere 1 minute, fine the next. And then I'd be sobbing like someone just told me, "Puppies and kittens are now canceled." And no matter what I did, I couldn't stop it. I'd sit there trying to think happy thoughts, rainbows, puppies, Ryan Reynolds shirtless. No, nothing, just waterworks, and the Niagara Falls to follow. It got so bad that I go to meetings and that I have to give people a disclaimer. I'd say, "Listen, I'm going through something that I can't control." And before I could finish, bam, the tsunami of tears. Can you picture me crying in front of complete strangers? And they're wondering, do we need to give her a box of tissues or cookies, or should we call her therapist? Like, it just was so bad. It was shaking and uncontrollable. So my first meeting with my golf coach, I introduced myself and said, "Hi, my name is Alexandra, and I'm going through something." And it just started. The tears started. I couldn't even finish. But before I could finish anything else, he just grabbed me and he said, "Don't worry, we'll get through this together." And I knew at that point I hired the right guy, so it was good. But it got worse. It got way worse. I'd lay awake at night staring at the ceiling, feeling completely hopeless. My mind was like a bad movie reel playing my biggest accomplishments. But instead of feeling proud, they all looked like failures. Even the things I poured my heart into, like winning awards or Peace Joy Soccer, remember that? I couldn't remember what it felt like to have joy serving refugees. I just couldn't remember the feeling. It was not available to me. when I thought about the future, all I could see was nothing. There was nothing to see in my future. Just empty, blank, hopeless, nothing. And then there was this voice in my head whispering, there's no point. There's just no point. Go ahead and end it. Here's the thing. I have a million tools in my toolkit. I've done all the mindset work. I know how to bounce back. I've read every single book you can possibly read on how to bounce back and how to turn this around. I mean, I was the queen of let's turn this around. That's what I based my life on. But these thoughts were like a runaway train that I could not stop. They came with a crushing weight, convincing me that, one, no one would miss me, that I was a failure, and I was a complete waste of space. I could observe these thoughts, and I could recognize this isn't me. This is anxiety. This will pass. But no amount of logic could ever stop those tears when they would come out of nowhere, like that unwelcome house guest that just won't leave, I'm telling you. And then there was my brain. I was so fogged up, I couldn't even finish sentences. I start talking, and I completely forget what I was even trying to say. It'd be horrible if that happened right now, wouldn't it? This wasn't just a bad day. It was a full-on meltdown, and it was a malfunction. And for someone like me who loves to be in control, who loves having a plan, I was spiraling. So I couldn't find hope. I couldn't find joy. I'd even pick up my guitar. You guys know how much I love my guitar. That's the place. It's always been my escape to write. There was nothing. I just looked at it and I cried. There was no spark. There was no purpose. This isn't who I am. This is a circumstance. I knew this deep down. This is not who I am. This is a circumstance. This has to be from those medications. So when the tears finally stopped, and I could take a break, I had a moment of clarity, and I got to make a plan. I reached out to a couple of friends, really close ones, the ones I knew I could trust with any messy truth. And I told them, here's the deal. When I call, this is what I need from you. I need you to tell me 3 things. 1, that this will pass. 2, to let it pass. And 3, that this isn't you. This isn't me. It's just a circumstance. Oh, and remind me that I'm loved a lot, like an awful, awful lot, and smother me in love. And bless them, they showed up for me. I'd call and say, the wave is coming! And as it would come, the tears would hit like clockwork. They'd let me cry it out and remind me everything I needed to hear when I couldn't say it to myself. I also knew that deep down, the emotions emotions need movement to leave the body. I'd feel that crushing despair creep in and take over, and I grabbed my giant rock star glasses, the ones that you can hide any malfunction or meltdown, and I'd just start walking around my neighborhood. I'd walk by about the 4th block, the tears would stop, the shaking would stop, and my body would get a break. But the nights, they got worse. The dark thoughts would creep in like a pillow being pressed over my face, being suffocated, and any desire to get out of bed or to start my day was non-existent. I couldn't even think about the week ahead, let alone the year. The voice in my head just kept saying, there's no point. There's no point. It's okay. Just end it. I knew I needed to take further action, so I started opening up to family members about what I was going through. And one morning, after a particularly awful crying episode, I called my sister. I said, Carol, I can't do this alone. Her response was immediate. I know. I've already packed my car. I'm coming to stay with you. Sisters always know. She made sure that I was done with that medication for good. It was some kind of patch that we angrily ripped off together, and we both reasoned that if it took 3 weeks to get into my system, it's probably going to take 3 weeks to leave. So whenever a wave of sadness started building, I'd say to my sister, can you just grab your coat? Would that be cool? Can we just go for a walk around the neighborhood? And she'd walk me through it. She'd walk with me, talk me through it, and reassure me that this would pass. She'd give me the space to feel everything without judgment. Over the next couple of weeks, the crying spells got shorter, and I wasn't sleeping much, but the anxiety that had been suffocating me, that pillow feeling I was talking about, it began to loosen its grips. Here's the thing. I've never experienced anxiety like that. Maybe a test or a speech or a performance, but like that? Never. I've never had suicidal thoughts. I've never had brain fog so thick I couldn't finish a sentence. It felt like the brain's elevator didn't have the button to get to the top floor, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was terrifying, super disorienting, and utterly unrecognizable from who I knew myself to be. Then, out of nowhere, a woman from a business group called and said, "Hey, would you be interested in writing a book called The Voices of 100 Women?" The idea lit something up inside of me, just some small little flicker of excitement that I hadn't felt in months. And when I asked about the deadline, she said, "Well, it was kind of like 3 weeks ago, but we can give you a little time. I mean, if you're interested." Why else would you reach out to me? So the timing couldn't have been more chaotic. I was about to leave for Europe the very next day with my best friend, who was fully prepared to take care of me and all of my out-of-control biology. But something out of that chapter felt like it was going to be a lifeline, a chance to reconnect with my voice, with my purpose, and maybe a part of myself that's been lost. So amidst the chaos of packing for Europe, I grabbed a notebook and scribbled down an outline for my chapter. And somewhere between outfit debates and stuffing toiletries into tiny bags, I started writing. On the plane, I finished it, and for the first time, I felt like I had a sense of purpose. I was working towards something bigger than just tears and anxiety. Europe, however, wasn't a total reset. The medicine was still clawing its way out of my system, and the tears were leaving a wake of anxiety constantly. But there was a shift, and I could feel it. Things were slowly getting better. I had managed to find a doctor that would prescribe a cream I had wanted, and even though it was out of pocket, I was willing to pay for it. So I got it right before my trip, but I decided I should at least wait 3 weeks for that other crap to get out of my system. My life got clearer, brighter, and more hopeful, and joy started to seep back in, little by little. And that whole 6 weeks in Europe, I made sure to hang out with friends that could love and support me through the process. So every place I went, I made sure a friend anchored me there. By the time I returned home, I felt alive again, as if the fog had lifted, and one of my closest friends flew in to spend time with me and shared this jaw-dropping news that one of our songs was in a top 10 Netflix film with Rebel Wilson and Justin Hartley. I was starting to feel like me again, and I was finding myself actually dreaming and feeling that I could celebrate something that wonderful. One of the biggest shifts came when I went deep into gratitude, and this room knows gratitude. I started finding ways to be thankful for everything, even the tough stuff. I mean, thankful for the tears. Who does that? The sleepless nights, the moments when I couldn't see a way forward. They weren't fun at the time, but they were teaching me so much, and I became present in each moment, even the hard ones. I found the joy in the smallest things, like a cup of coffee, like in the morning, or the sound of the birds outside, a good laugh with a friend. Gratitude turned into a superpower, and it helped me see that every step, no matter how challenging, was leading me to exactly where my soul needed to go. In October, my book was released, the one I wrote the chapter for, and it became an international bestseller in the US, Canada, and Australia. I was actually in Europe when it was released. I was back on a Greek island, and I was staying in this beachfront property, expanding that exact chapter into a potential manuscript that I could share when it was released. And it was there that I kept saying yes and embraced every moment in life. While I was there, I manifested sailing across crystal clear waters, danced the night away like a movie star, no glasses required, and the hotel owners gave me a beautiful bracelet, and when I left, they said, "Your energy is going to be missed." My energy, the one that I couldn't get out of bed a few months earlier. It was a complete and utter shift from a few months ago. To talk about another movie moment, my music was playing in the hotel restaurant, and it was like my music was on the radio. And I looked with wonder, and I felt like it was a pinch-me surreal moment where the universe was saying, "Welcome back, Alexandra. Welcome back." So let me tell you, I did get my groove back. And remember those golf lessons I mentioned? The one where I was crying so hard my instructor was comforting me before we even exchanged formal introductions? Well, I set a goal to be a bogey golfer, or better. And I bought myself some shiny new clubs recently. And believe it or not, I'm actually playing under bogey golf right now. Most consistently, but not always. Girl partner is proof. I also overhauled my fitness routine. I wanted to feel stronger, so I got back into the gym, revamped my diet. Now I have more energy. More energy. You guys know me. Than I've had in years. I'm writing music that reflects my personality. It's fun, it's quirky, and it's 100% me. And I'm writing lots of it, lots and lots of it. Then I asked myself, if this was my last week on Earth, what would I want the world to know about me? What experiences would I like to have? The answer was simple. I do want the world to hear my music. So I started working with an incredible team of producers from all over the world that are helping me finish tracks. And then I also thought I'd like to visit friends that I haven't seen in 5 years or more that live in other countries. So I've booked a trip to Australia and New Zealand for the whole month of February to fulfill that dream. I'm not a girl who lives from a bucket list. I live from my life list. So I'm crossing every one of those life list ideas off sooner rather than later. Through everything I've been through, I now have deep empathy for anyone struggling with mental illness because I understand it's not who they are. It's simply a wiring issue. It's a circumstance. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have the ability to ask for help. And not everyone has a support group that I was fortunate enough to have. And I will never take that for granted. It's also been a blessing because now I have deep empathy for my clients. If they're going through something, I'm not going to just say, hey, just think happy thoughts, girl, you got this. I'm going to go deeper into empathy and hold the space if they're going through something that's real, that there's probably a wiring connection, and I want to hold that space for them on a deeper level. So I'll be meeting them with that compassion and understanding. So let me recap the steps I took to climb out of that, what felt like an inescapable hole, and start living my life full throttle, feeling this unstoppable feeling. Use these steps if you or a loved one are going through something. Number one, it's Captain Obvious, but stop or change your medication if it's a medical thing, but always work closely with a medical practitioner you actually trust. Number two, recognize something is wrong. Don't ignore it. Number three, know yourself and your biology. You know yourself the best. Nobody else does. I was muscle testing, and I knew that it was bad for me. Number four, ask for help. If you know what you need, don't be afraid to ask for it. It's okay. Number five, have friends and family who can hold on to that space, hold that space and love you through it all and tell you that you matter. Make sure you've got friends and family that know what you're going through. Number six, get into movement because whether it's a walk or it's just exercise, when we move into motion, we are moving emotion. So get into movement. And lastly, find something that brings you joy. It may have felt like puppies and kittens were being canceled, but I promise you they're still on YouTube. Or if there's something that just lights you up, just anything. If it's the sun on your face, experience that and try to experience more of it. Just find that one thing to bring you to a higher vibration. I've learned the path back to yourself. It may not always be clear, but every step you take in the right direction gets you closer to rediscovering your strength. And when you do, nothing can stop you. I'm living proof that low points can absolutely be a foundation for transformation and resilience. I encourage those listening who may be struggling to reach out for support, to hold on to hope, and believe in your potential to grow through difficult times. You don't have to deal with anything alone. There's 6 billion people on the planet or more. My name is Alexandra. I was once suicidal, and now I'm electrifiable and in love with the world. I'm in love with my life. I'm determined to be a major contributor while I'm here. They say life happens for us and not to us. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful for all the lessons, for all the growth, and for the reignited spark that I truly